And we're back as the day continues to roll on here at the International. The preliminary group stage 2 series already behind us, 3 still ahead. Invasion MUFC going to be taking on Team Dignitas. Now, Dignitas we've already seen in action once today. And yeah, they're going to have to try and shake that one off. Not sure how their other performances have been or if they've had any other performances thus far. But Dignitas really just looking at 9 kinds of out of sorts in Game 1 and Game 2 of the day where they were blanked 0-2 by Team DK. Now facing another Asian challenge in MUFC, going to look to get things back together so they don't have their group stage collapse on them this early on. I'm your host, Aaron AC Chambers, joined live by Draskell. And yeah, my friend, Dignitas, a team you and I both know very well. You certainly more than me. You've been close to these guys since before they were Team Dignitas, and we have seen glimpses of true brilliance out of this team, but really, again, it's one thing to get beat. It's another for them to not even look like the team that we're so familiar in seeing, and that's how Game 1 and Game 2 felt.
I really feel like they just went on tilt, honestly. Even after the first 2 deaths, when Way2 ran into the river, got caught out in a very, very silly way, and then Aoi went in to help him, and then also died in a silly way. Stuff like that, especially for North American teams, we have a habit of being very emotional when we play. So we get into these situations where we can't really focus on the game because we're irritable or whatever, and teams that are more disciplined, all of the Eastern teams, don't get that way as much. So whenever they make a mistake, it's easier for them to stay basically in the game, whereas I feel like Dignitas, especially having no money, I'm pretty sure they probably just said, you know what, we're just not feeling it this series.
Right.
We'll go to the next one, and we'll try to go with a clear head. So they're up against MUFC, a team who's kind of, I would say, middle ground right now. Maybe top 8 material, maybe not. But Dignitas is a team, especially considering their Western team, they're like, I guess you could say, one of the Western hopes. So at least I personally hope they're going to show what they are capable of here right now.
First 2 out from MUFC, going to be Visage and Lifestealer. Dignitas did manage to land themselves the Bad Rider as IO and the Alchemist banned by MUFC. Now, Bad Rider by Dignitas tends to be played by Universe. You'll see him do it in a variety of ways, sometimes in the off lane, very often just jungling up. But the aggressive, I feel like Dignitas needs to go back to their roots, man. Darkseer is still in the pool. Would love to see them grab a Darkseer here and then maybe try to land Fog to Jakiro after that. That combination is one that over the last 2 or 3 months, they have run literally into the ground. I mean, they have just run that combination so much. It has to feel like it's on automatic. And coming off of a bad loss like we saw early, sometimes that's the best thing to do. Give yourselves a chance in your own comfort zone. They're not going to opt to grab the DS right now. We'll see if he survives the ban phase. Instead, opting to go ahead and grab themselves the Weaver.
I do like the Weaver just because against those 2 heroes already, Lifestealer doesn't really do a whole lot against Weaver, and Minus Armor is very, very potent in general, especially when you have a team that, well, we haven't seen what Dignitas is going to pick yet, but there's a good chance they can supplement that in some way. And it also gives you a hero who can viably offlane and also semi-carry, which not a whole lot of heroes are capable of, at least in being that successful in it because of Weaver's great mobility. So Dignitas are taking away basically the heroes that can open on a Weaver or a Bat Rider and cause extreme havoc, like we saw Nyx earlier, can be very, very big deterrent for Bat Rider just because of spiked carapace, and Rubik being able to open up with an instantaneous stun, aka telekinesis. So I do like Dignitas bans here, but they're also taking away those supports from themselves. So MUFC already have a Visage, so they only need 1 more support, whereas Dignitas need 2. So you have to be really careful about not limiting your options too much, because we've also seen that today, where Orange kind of put themselves in a position where they kind of ran out of options. I hope that same thing doesn't happen to Dignitas.
MUFC getting ready to show us their 3rd pick. So far with their front 2, very single target oriented heroes they could do for some initiation, some range, some reach. We'll see if they want to grab themselves a mid here. Puck available. Queen of Pain we saw, well, actually we didn't see. We saw Queen of Pain get utterly dominated in our last series, a Puck just running her into the ground. But yeah, that hero certainly could give them some nice AoE burst to go along with what they already have. The cool thing about a Visage and a Lifestealer as a carry is actually a hero who peaks at a time that he can fit into push-oriented lineups much more effectively than some late-game-oriented carries can. They're going to grab a Crystal Maiden. Now, that's more or less another single-target-oriented hero. Usually, when you think about CM, you think about her strength in the laning phase. Levels 1 through 5, arguably, she might be the best level 1 through 5 support in the entire game in terms of what she can allow you to do in terms of aggression, in terms of roaming. Very effective roamer, able to lead off with a Frostbite, then a Nova afterwards to get the slow and that extra little bit of burst. But again, when I look at what they're doing so far, I sniff that they do want to get aggressive in one of two ways. They're either going to offensively tri-lane with these three heroes, which has a lot of potential, a lot of kill potential, makes it very, very hard to draft into, or they may just have that Crystal Maiden roaming from level 1. They may start her out in lane, but start to move her with smoke, start to move her into the runes and see what she can find there to try and make something happen. Either way, Dignitas still pretty wide open, as you had mentioned. A lot of flexibility in Bad Rider and Weaver both. They can put those heroes anywhere they need to, anywhere from mid to the off lane. But Naga Siren going to be the next pickup for them. So picking themselves up a little bit of extra lockdown and a little bit more mid game oomph, I would say.
Naga Siren it's so funny because TI3 Naga Siren was being played, and then for like, I don't know, 6-7 months after TI2, the hero just wasn't seen like at all. After the base damage nerf and the Riptide nerf, people were like, we don't want any part of this hero, nerf too hard, completely worthless. People seem to have forgotten about Song of the Siren and a 5-second route that goes through BKB.
Yep.
I mean, they just were like, yeah, those don't matter. But people have come back into loving her again, and regardless of whether or not it's a support Naga Siren or a farming Naga Siren, still very effective either way. I think you hit the nail on the head, by the way, when you mentioned that it was going to be an aggressive tri-lane, because a Crystal Maiden doing creep pulls and such, even though it does give you the capability of killing a Weaver, I feel your best option with those heroes is to go as aggressive as you can and just go straight head on. Because it's not like a greedy support, it's a good lane support that doesn't scale as well. So you really want to try to make something happen with her as soon as you can. And the puck kind of fits into that theme of being able to apply a heck of a lot of constant pressure. So I'm curious to see what their last pick is going to be, or what their short laner is going to be, because they already have basically their tri-lane completed in Dignitas. They don't have a secondary support yet, so I do believe this is going to be a Naga support.
Yeah, I mean, the way Dignitas is drafted, this is actually really interesting to me. And Dignitas, not just them, but other teams as well, very often you'll see teams just say, okay, you've got a Lifestealer, we're just going to grab the Naga. But usually that, the Naga for the Ensnare, as you mentioned, that goes through Magic community. But very often when that's the case, you'll see them opt to get the Bane instead. But the reason I really like the Naga instead of like a more typical support like a Bane in this situation is when you see the aggressive potential that MUFC is going to want to bring to bear, having the Naga Siren, Song of the Siren, just to hit the pause button, just to say, okay, if we have a team that is very reliant on getting the jump on you. You want your Bat Rider landing his lasso to start these fights. You want your Weaver in position to skirt around the edges, do the damage he needs to do. You want your Dragon Knight with all of his abilities off cooldown, with Dragon Form ready to go. There's a lot of ways you can abuse this lineup from Dignitas if you can catch them out. And with the inherent mobility that they have built in with the Puck and the Lifestealer in particular, and the fact that, as I think we both envision here, it's going to be a lot of roaming out of this Visage and out of the Crystal Maiden in particular. Once she hits 6, just having the ability to stop a fight that maybe is not going to suit them is a very nice safety belt to go along with the Ensnare that's going to go through the Magic community. And she can transition fairly well into a semi-off carry, even from the support role. She's a lot like a Gyrocopter support in that regard, just because Mirror Image allows her to farm the jungle very effectively if you decide to start giving her some gold priority. I don't think that's going to be the case because you have 3 gold-hungry heroes in the Bad Rider, Weaver, and Dragon Knight already. But I definitely, this feels like a much better draft out of Dignitas than we saw in games 1 and 2 against DK for sure.
I think they were totally out of their comfort zone in terms of what style DK played. It's really uncommon to see that heavy of push, at least in terms of, typically when you have a heavy push, you can win the laning phase. But the thing about Lifestealer DK combos is that both those heroes are reliably good laners. They don't just lose their lane, and they don't just give away something for free. So when they were put up against that, they just didn't really have a reaction to it, whereas MUFC is picking a style that is pretty much in-your-face aggression, not necessarily comprised of killing towers. But looks like the last pick is going to be a Lone Druid, so that's definitely a fantastic safe laner. If he goes against the the Weaver, then the Weaver is actually going to have a bit of a hard time. It depends, though. If they send the Bat Rider just doesn't really do that well against a Lone Druid. But a Weaver can do okay. The only way the Lone Druid can really do do any real damage per se as if he gets pulled sentries.
10
But again,
seconds
it's kind of a
remaining.
guessing game for MUFC because they're not sure which hero they're going to be sending mid. If Puck's going to be
5
mid,
seconds
then you kind of
remaining.
would want, I would imagine, Weaver just to be able to contest runes, at least in the early game. And Batrider can get a
Reserve
fast
time.
blink by collapsing in the jungle anyway, so giving Weaver a more reliable start. But we'll see what they decide to do. Looks like Aoi is going to be playing the Weaver instead, and looks like it's going to be a DK mid.
Grabbing up the Bane with their last pick, and really that makes so much sense. Again, it wouldn't make sense to deal with the Lifestealer in and of itself. The Nagasiren does a great job there, but now having Nightmare to deal with Lone Druid's Bear early on, going to prevent any creep skipping if the laning phase happens to make that a reality. But I still, when I look at this lineup from MUFC, it's just the offensive tri-lane makes way too much sense, especially given what they're going to be up against. I mean, the Weaver, it can be super annoying, but the earlier you're able to get in his face, the more you're able to slow him down. And then he starts lacking that regen that he usually wants. He starts lacking survivability items like a Linken's or a BKB, and he becomes much easier to deal with. And they do
10
have
seconds
already a
remaining.
number of ways to deal with him. If they're able to catch him with a coil, able to catch him with a waning rift,
5
able to catch him with a
seconds, 5
frostbite,
seconds
and then open wounds, etc. So they certainly have all the tools they need. It's just a matter of how well they're going to be able to execute early on. So game one of our third series of the day, just about to get underway. You can say we're just about officially halfway done. We will have this series plus 2 more as we roll throughout today. It'll be the same case coming up tomorrow as well. And Dignitas, again, like you said, one of the great Western Hope teams. Many people were excited when they got their direct invite, as you would expect, but need to find their rhythm and need to do so in a hurry. They are going to be moving as 5 through the Radiant side jungle, and MUFC moving down that lane, kind of meandering their way down, at least for the moment. We do see the Druid kind of hanging around mid right now. He could end up just making his way up to the off lane, but for right now, Dignitas anticipating some aggression out of MUFC, moving as a full 5. They're going to be close to each other. The Bear's in position, ready to go scout, trying to find some vision. And so
30
far,
seconds to
looks
battle.
like both teams are going to go ahead and withdraw away from each other. So we'll run through our lineup, see who's handling who. Way Too Sexy, I'll be playing on Bane, one of his favorite heroes, Fogged. I'll be handling our Naga, so no doubt that will be a support. Universe, as anticipated, on one of his specialities on the Batrider. We'll have the Weaver, played by AUI, and the DK, handled by Sneaking, most likely setting up shop in mid. For MUFC, we're going to have Winner, playing on, appropriately, the Crystal Maiden. We're going to have
battle begins.
Actually, yeah. Let's hang on. Here we go. The Visage taking a little bit of damage, but neither team willing to commit there. But Ling, will be playing on the Visage. We're going to have TFG handling our Puck here in mid. The Lifestealer will be played by Han Trash Player. Obviously, love that name. And FZYY will be playing on the Lone Druid. So yeah, the lane's taking shape about as we anticipated here.
Yeah, the aggressive tri-lane coming out here from MEFC. The one worry that I have for them is because of the fact that this is a Weaver tri-lane, there is an inherent risk of not being able to actually go for a kill. Because Fogged and Way2 don't ever have to really put themselves in harm's way unless they're pulling. And if they're pulling, because of the fact that they have a Weaver in the lane, it's very easy for Aoi to actually get there. And he doesn't have to worry about being a melee hero and tanking the creeps into the tower. He can just Shikuchi away. So he's not going to really be in any trouble himself. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot in terms of being able to shut this particular farm down. But I do think that the Lifestealer is still going to get farm of his own. So it's pretty much going to be both carries farming. I don't think that Dignitas are going to necessarily be able to apply any pressure themselves. And there is a ward down here, so they are going to be able to spot out Fogged at the very least. And we'll see if they want to go for it.
Fogged being chased back. No open wounds. Does have his first point into it, but probably wisely so. There is a lot of counter-initiation potential on the side of MUFC at this stage. Again, the strength of Crystal Maiden really shows itself the most potently the first 5 levels, and having even just Frostbite plus Ensnare plus Nightmare to worry about can get yourself into some bad situations even with Magic Community. But again, being level 1, he wouldn't even have access to that. Now this matchup up at top is one we're going to want to watch. The Lone Druid does just fine against the Bat for a while, but there comes a point once the Bat hits level 6 that if he is able to get 3 to 4 stacks of sticky napalm on a Lone Druid that's playing a bit too far forward, he will just kill him. Just flat out 100% kill him. And many, many times have seen Lone Druids really knocked off by giving up a death or two in this one-on-one kind of a matchup. So the Universe going to be looking to get aggressive here in just a few levels. The Druid right now, though, being played quite competently by MUFC. So the early CS, Puck sitting on top. He's got 11 out of this matchup here in mid, but Sneaking's hanging and banging with him. He's got 9.
Yeah, DK, he's interesting in mid in the sense that normal heroes like Puck, who you typically excel at being able to harass, you actually can't push a DK out of the lane if he's battle crewing. It's just too hard. He has too much armor, too much regeneration. The capability of counter pushing with Brave Fire, especially considering the mana cost, isn't all that high. So he's going to be doing just fine. The movement coming out from MUFC, that's going to be the most important thing. And we always talk about how when you have a tri-lane versus a tri-lane, that it's very difficult for the supports to move without being noticed because you have two more supports on the other team that are sitting right there. So I don't think they're going to be able to really do anything to sneaking, and I think these lanes, especially mid and top, are going to be left more or less alone. The one upside to MUFC is that when TFG hits 6, his teleports are going to be so devastating to this bottom lane, because if he gets in, gets a decent coil, it's going to be like 100% kills.
Taking a look at the CS out of this offensive tri-lane. Up, there's a Nightmare winner. They thought about it, and there we go. They're going to follow it up, raging out, and first blood going to go the way of AUI. Fogged, caught with Grave Chills. He tries to retreat. That'll be at least 1-for-1 the trade. The Lifestealer has to pull back, even has to use his wand charges just to play it safe. So Dignitas off to a much better start. They end up going 1-for-1 in that trade, but with first blood, a little bit of an edge going to them.
Yeah, trading the first blood there, definitely worth it. Unfortunate that Fogged had to die. I don't think that he necessarily had to be that close. I think he could have just went with the ensnare and then thrown the Riptide afterwards and been in a slightly safer position, because he took a lot of damage that he probably didn't have to. So regardless, still a slate. Better exchange for Dignitas. Not the end of the world, though, if you're MUFC. We see rotation top. Looks like Fogged maybe wants to try to go for FCFC up here. And he is level 5, though, so yeah, unlucky root on Universe.
And there's an ensnare to follow it up. Firefly damage is there. 4 stacks of sticky napalm. This is what you can't do if you're a lone druid. This will happen to you. Even with the root, as you said, little RNG love certainly made that seem a little closer than it needed to be. But yeah, with that many stacks of sticky napalm and just a little bit of extra help from Fogged, very easy kill. And really do like what Dignitas is showing us so far. The things we said that characterize this team so typically, we're beginning to see them. Early movement, good decision making, good aggression, and just making sure your lineup is put through its paces and utilized by its skill set as early as possible.
It was a really clever move by Fogged, honestly, because even the time it takes to TP up there, because of those trees, you can't see it, and MUFC could have just as easily assumed that he was just walking back to lane, because why waste a TP back to the safe lane if you're just going to be farming? And in that time, MUFC weren't able to do anything. Like, they couldn't go for way 2 because he's really, really far back, as he should be. And again, going on Aoi is difficult because he's a Weaver. So we'll see if Fogged wants to make a return to that top lane, or if he's just going to go back bottom and try to help out, because now that MUFC realize that he is incapable of really supporting right now, they're starting to play a little bit more aggressive. But in middle, it's pretty much a dead heat here. It's 22-2 comparison to 23-3, so you don't get much closer than that, honestly. But again, TFG is about to hit 6, and once he does, I would imagine we're going to see some really aggressive maneuvers coming out, because honestly, late game, Dignitas are probably going to have a bit of an advantage just in the fact that they have better initiation and better counter initiation as well because of the Naga Siren Song.
The farmer down here, Weaver, sitting at 16 CS, so AUI not having the best go of things. Not a disaster, but coming up short against his counterpart in the Lifestealer, who's farming out of that offensive tri-lane. All things considered, though, early game going fairly well for them. There's a Nightmare to buy some time. Winner, unable to deny it, does get off a Frostbite, but a coil. Enough to shut him down for the moment. He is going to snap it, but 1 orb. Enough to secure the kill. It seemed like to be a nice play, and he almost seemed like he was going to get away with it because of the ace room, but MUFC able to make it 2-2, beginning to see a bit more movement out of both teams now.
I'm a bit confused as what Way 2 was thinking right there. I mean, taking the haste was fine, but he could have brain snapped, probably sat in the coil, and then just walked to the left and been fine. But instead he broke the coil, took extra damage, didn't brain sap, and ran the weirdest way possible. But against the Universe playing aggressive here on top lane too, CSC is not having the best time ever. Still 2-2, pretty much anyone's game. A lot of weird plays going on so far. I think teams are still trying to adjust to their surroundings perhaps, but then again, I don't think Tong for DK needed much adjustment. They kind of just came in rolling. So.
Well, so far, relatively quiet. 4 kills in a 7-minute match. Really haven't seen quite as much out of this bottom lane as I would have anticipated, but you said it so very succinctly. It's just so hard to engage on both sides for very different reasons. just hard to commit without feeling like you're overcommitting. Universe now beginning to move into the jungle. He's actually more than halfway to his blink dagger at the moment. Just does go ahead and teleport back home. And may decide to go ahead and opt for boots first, but a little bit of catch-up being played as Way2 now up to 21 CS. Excuse me, Owie up to 21 CS.
It's kind of a bummer that even though Dignitas are technically not dying against MUFC's aggressive tri-lane, that it's still working because Owie is still feeling pressure to try to farm. And that's partly due to the fact that Fog went top, but it was still an okay call because they ended up getting a kill out of it, so... Owie not necessarily having the start that I think he would like, because honestly 24 CS at 8 minutes is pretty meh, to say the least. And TFG, he's going to get an invis rune here. He's actually level 7. Seeking was applying pressure to the mid tower while he was going to bottom rune. But this is the point in the game where MUFC can actually start pushing the pace, because their puck is level 7, he's got max orb. Sometimes some pucks like to go for silence instead to try to go for kills. I would actually have thought that he would do that because he's against a Weaver, but he actually decided to opt for the orb anyways, so we'll see when he decides to move, but with an invis should be pretty easy to maybe go bottom and get a kill.
This has been really a dominant performance out of Sneaking. He has just done such an excellent job. And in bottom, we are going to have an engagement. There's the soul assumption on the Fog. Nightmare's there as well. Fog trying to make his way away. There's the coil. It goes down as well. They're going to get the life stealer, try to follow it up. Way2 doing what damage he can. They're going to go 1 for 1 in the shadow of the secret shop. AUI used his time lapse. Not sure if it would have saved him because it gave him about 10 HP, but nonetheless, he makes it away. So a trade, once again, favoring Dignitas. They limp away, but limp away victors that time. They lead the game 5-3, and I think we can start to see, or I think we'd expect to see a lot more of that. And at some point, Universe is going to decide, I mean, I can tell you what that point is. It's going to be when he gets his blink daggers. He still has 1,600 gold, and not far away at all from finishing that item. But the middle tower will be denied in the meantime, and again, just really a dominant performance out of Sneaking on the DK. Leads in CS, has bullied the puck and managing to bring that tower down before 10 minutes. Now they're going to engage on the Fog. Open wounds is there. There's the Frostbite to follow it. Do they have the damage? They do not, and not going to chance it either. So applying pressure, but not going to be able to seal the deal.
And the fact that mid tower is dead and Dignitas tower is untouched, we can see that the supports, well actually one support and the mid basically have decided to smoke up. And looks like Fog's baiting it out a bit. He really wants TFG to go, but he doesn't have coils, so it looks like he actually won't at this point in time. And Seeking's going to go in.
There's the Dragon Tail. Follow-up will be there. Fiend's Grip plus Fog. That's a dead puck. And it has been a struggle for pucks so far, and this is what you expect to see out of Dignitas. This feels so much more like the squad that everyone was excited to see get their original invite, and so very deserving of it. Good decision making, good standout performances. Sneaking really a playmaking mid if ever there was one. A pleasure to watch, and has a certain skill set of heroes or certain subset of heroes that he is especially skilled on. DK has quickly become one of those heroes, plays him quite a bit. And they're doing a great job. We're going to see them rotate now down to bottom. They've got 3 in position. Way2 in the meantime, level 7 as we saw him show off his Fiend's Grip. And yeah, I'm going to take our first look at the gold graph. That's kind of what I expect. And this is really impressive given only 1 tower's down right now. They're leading by about 3,500 gold. And the experience moving their way pretty swiftly as well at 4,000.
It's a lot of little things. I mean, that fight bottom, where Owie got the double kill, you could easily say that it's nice for Owie because he gets gold. Well, the fact of the matter is, when your supports get that much experience, it helps you tremendously. And Universe could be in some trouble here top.
TP reaction will be there. There will be a root that locks him down. Song of the Siren. Just at the right moment. The Visage Familiar is unaffected by it, but buys just enough time for Universe to make it away. That reset button I told you about, think we just saw it. As he manages to make it away in the meantime, Weaver was picked off elsewhere. So MUFC, a missed opportunity at top, but capitalizing on another one at bottom.
And that was a really, really nice timing right there from Fox. Brilliant TP reaction. And there is a blink up on Universe now, which is really nice because now they can choose their own fights, whereas the puck is still about 1,600 away from his. But MUFC are going to be able to push the tier 1. Looks like Dignitas aren't going to let it go for free, though.
There's the lasso. They're going to drag it back. They have glyphed it as well. The bear looking for a root, not going to find it, at least not yet. There's a flame break. And MUFC hanging around a bit too long. They're going to lose 2 here. Winner's not going anywhere unless, yeah, he's just done. Crystal Maiden not exactly the fastest person on the map. They do get the tower as well. Actually, excuse me, they managed to deny the tower. And another really nice turnaround for Dignitas, stretching their legs, and I'm really liking what they're doing with this lineup. And the thing is, they're not playing reckless about it, which is kind of something we did see a bit of in their performance in the first series. They just kind of made some plays where you're like, what were you even doing there? Right now, they're playing some very deliberate Dota, and everything that they're doing is working out for them.
Again, that's the story of the supports. Because of the fact that the aggressive tri-lane at this point has basically backfired. There was some point in the game where MUFC were saying, okay, well, Aui's not getting that much farm. Even though Fog went top, we're able to compensate. We killed Aui once. It's not a huge deal. But the fact of the matter is, the CM is level 4, and the Bane and the Naga Siren are both level 8. So that's a pretty big experience deficit to have, especially as a hero who pretty much only has early mid-game potential. Whereas Bane and Naga are both good throughout the entire game for different reasons. Of course, Bane's crowd control is much better than a Crystal Maiden's, and Naga can actually semi-carry. So for MUFC, their timing window has kind of already been missed a little bit. Not to say that the game's over for them, but they're definitely in a position that they would rather not be in, especially considering Dignitas are looking to push this tier 1 top.
Up at top, we are going to have an engagement. There's a lasso. They're going to grab TFG. He'll be brought down. No, he face shifts out, gets off the coil right afterwards before he died, and he shot it away. Will finally end up cleaned up, but they're going to follow it up with a lot of damage. Root on the sneaking, uses the dragon tail on the bear. Not enough to buy him the time. We see Bat Rider knocked down out of the air by the heavy artillery of Visage. And that's a 3-for-1, and that was something MUFC needed absolutely desperately. They needed to get a win. And I was just about to make the comment that the one thing that I feel like they have going for them is even though they've fallen behind, they've done so for the most part without losing that much map control. They lost the mid-tier 1, which is of course a pain, but keeping up all of their other towers so far allows them to react much more effectively, allows them to feel much more stable. And now with a turnaround like that, Dignitas is going to feel a little more loath to try and make things happen just because MUFC has finally been given some room to breathe.
Well, they had to defend that tower. It's when you lose your tier 1 mid, it puts a lot more emphasis on keeping your safe lane tower because, again, we talked about, it's kind of the theme of today. Don't lose control of your woods because then you don't have anywhere to farm, really. And Aui going to be diving here bottom with way too.
And there's the Fiend's grip. Little breathe fire from sneaking. Enough to get him on a killing spree as he melts down the lone druid. The tier 1 bottom. Just about to drop. MUFC doesn't look like they're interested in contesting it. And yeah, still reeling a little bit. That's a nice bounce back from Dignitas. That was a big win for MUFC previously, but they're going to push on through. Now, MUFC's got to decide. Now, this is where things get risky to me. They kind of need to come fight, but if they do and they lose, it's just going to be a huge turnaround. So far, we've seen them gain leads incrementally, and it's going to be a moot point anyways. They're just going to sack this tower. They are going to come in, not going to glyph it, and yeah, he's going to land in. Open wounds on sneaking. There's the ensnare to lock him down, though. Soul Assumption doing good damage. Song of the Siren. That reset button, buying them time to retreat, and let's see how committed they are to pursuing. Not very. TFG doesn't have his blink, so his mobility not quite where it needs to be to run them down, even with Ethereal Jaunt. And the rest of them will go ahead and pull back. So Dignitas able to get the tower and keep themselves alive. Not too shabby. Oh, hang on.
They might actually be able to kill Lifestealer too. Oh, nice and fast.
And they're going to come in. They're going to lasso TFG though. Koch is hanging out, waiting in the river. In the meantime, we're going to see him get another kill as Crystal Maiden hacked to pieces and a dominating performance out of sneaking. And Dignitas is just on the warpath. And this is so much a characteristic of this Dignitas team. Whenever they get knocked out of their rhythm early, they tend to be a team that struggles like we saw. When they get on a roll, though, they are not just good, they're super good.
Yeah, it's really hard for MUFC, and this is one of the reasons why CM isn't picked so much, because there's pretty much only one thing she can do. One-dimensional hero, aggressive tri-lane, or I guess way back in the day when people used to dual lane mid with CM Morphling, that was like a thing, but it's not anymore. So people pick supports that can actually do more than just one thing nowadays, and honestly, I would say in this particular case, Naga Siren does CM's job better. So MUFC definitely uphill struggle for them. Can they defend anything right now? I don't even think they can, honestly, because TFG has died 4 times. He's not even close to his Blink Dagger right now, whereas Universe has had his for, what, like almost 6-7 minutes?
Oh yeah.
They're going to be able to push the tier 1 mid, but they're also going to be sacrificing their safe lane tier 1, so I think Dignitas is going to be fine with that, and they might not even lose it, actually, as you see some team reaction.
There's going to be the lasso. Dragon Tail to follow it up. They clean him up very quick with the Brain Sap. Another TP coming in. They try to slow him down, but they catch the Druid. It's snared and caught with the Fiend's grip, burning to death inside the Firefly. And they're not done. Gonna pursue it at AUI. Gets his eyes on the Visage. Knocked back. There's Crystal Maiden trying to slow him down, but AUI, using his last bit of mana, will secure himself a kill, and they're gonna ensnare a winner. Another death and a double kill. Going the way of AUI. And Dignitas is just rolling this game up and making it theirs. 16-7, 23 kills in an 18-minute game. And they're not about to abandon mid. And Hontrash going to have to watch himself because there's an ensnare. They're going to follow it up. Lasso's on cooldown. Infest gets him out of trouble for a moment. He will be ensnared. And all by his lonesome right now, waiting on any kind of support if Dignitas wants to try and push this down, and they do. Earning themselves back into fighting shape. Here comes the rest of the team, filing out one by one. And Dignitas looks like they realize they are running out of time a little bit. We'll go ahead and withdraw.
I just want to say this. Bane is the same level as the Puck.
Yeah.
No, he's higher level. I'm sorry. He's 11. The Puck's only level 10. The Lone Druid is 11. That's what I meant to say. The Lone Druid and the Bane are the same level. So, if you're MSC, you got some problems. And not just one problem, there's like 100 problems. And honestly, if they take a team fight right now with their team composition, they don't have enough damage to kill Dignitas lineup anymore. Especially with the DK getting higher level. He's now level 12, he's had a Shadow Blade for a while. Universe, he's got a Force Staff now on top of his Blink. Everyone at Dignitas is just so unbelievably farmed. Aui's sitting on 3,000 gold right now. This tier 2 has pretty much no chance. Glyph's not even up. MUFC is going to completely abandon it. And this again means that there's pretty much no chance for MUFC to get a quick reaction to Roshan if Dignitas want to do it. Oh, and by the way, they have a Naga Siren, so good luck trying to steal the Aegis. It's just so hard for MUFC right now. Honestly, I don't even want to say it because we haven't had a game last for more than 30 minutes, but it's pretty close to the point where MUFC might just tap out.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that impression as well. Speaking of Bane, already has his Ghost Scepter up. So survivable. Naga Siren, more of a tanky hero now, has picked up the Vid Booster. And Shadow, the Shadow Blade up on sneaking to go with a Ogre Club that's on his way to him now. So not only is he hitting hard, but he's beginning to tank up as well. And, you know, this Lone Druid who finished, he got his Midas up at a decent clip. It wasn't the earliest I've ever seen in my life, but he is sitting on nothing but 1,100 gold, a set of Trank boots, and that Midas, essentially. Yeah, he's got the Orb of Venom, too. And it looks like, yeah, this is, you know, your desperation Roche attempt. When things get bad, sometimes you got to do something. Now, they do have that medallion up. The minus armor is certainly going to be helping them, but Universe going to spot it. And he may just go for this. Keeping an eye on it. Roche quite low. All right, Universe, let's see how quick you are. He throws it in. He goes in too early. Silenced out, coiled down. Now they're going to re-engage. The Lifestealer taking a lot of damage. They're still trying to get it. In the meantime, AUI gets himself another kill. And yeah, here comes Sneaking, just going to walk off. And the Roche will be taken by the Dragon Knight. Sneaking gets another kill, making a double kill. Snatches the Aegis in the meantime. And that might just be that. With only one outer tier tower remaining, Rax looking quite appetizing. If it wasn't for the short respawn timers, that just about would be it. They're just too far ahead. This is something you don't see. Even in the worst of games, in the absolute worst of games, it's rare if you bring up the net worth tab that it's split 5 and 5. It's almost always, even at least on the support levels, someone is ahead of someone else and there's a little bit of a break in it. All green at the top, all red at the bottom. The definition of a dominating performance out of Dignitas, who have really just done a phenomenal job this game and bouncing back and getting themselves back into tournament shape really quickly.
That was just insult to injury, honestly. Not only did they get the Aegis, but they got the Roche kill too.
Yep.
So they got all the money for it. Sneaking now could be in some trouble.
Reinitiation, Sneaking a little too chest out. The Dust and the Sentry go down. There's open wounds on the Bad Rider. Force Staff gets him back to safety. Sneaking will survive through that. And Song of the Siren. Hell, they're so grouped up if they want to go for this. Do they have the health? Do they have the firepower? They don't. It looks like they were thinking about it. The Visage Familiars, though, putting a pause in the game plan a little bit. They're not going back yet. There's a Dragon Tail. They're going to reinitiate. That's a monster kill. Going the way of the Dragon Knight, handled by Sneaking. TFG going to have the Nightmare removed. Now they're going to engage on the Fog. Now the Lasso. Grabbing one. Coil does go down. It's a decent one, but the damage is just lacking. The phase shift only enough to buy time and delay the inevitable. As they trade 1 for 2 once again, Way 2 going to brain sap through that damage. And one last auto attack from the low ground puts Owie on a mega kill streak as well. That Desolator, the damage, the dominance, showing itself off. Buyback from Puck in the meantime. He's going to come back in, pop the Aegis. Wait, if no way. Are they serious? How? They don't have 100 hit points between them and they survived there. And TFG almost died in the meantime. I don't know how, but Dignitas limping away, wounded but smiling as they take a number of fights in quick succession, but more importantly, take down this melee Rax.
I gotta say, I'm surprised MUFC haven't just called this.
Yeah.
I mean, after the Roshan, I was really expecting them to just say, okay, go nuke, because that's one of those moments where a team is doing something that's a last-ditch effort because they see you potentially pushing their last tier 2 tower that's on the map. Well, I should say last outer 2 tower in general because, well, they don't have any more. So, Dignitas, I mean, look at Way 2. He's got a Sage, a Ghost Scepter, and Arcane Boots. He is worth more than the Lifestealer of MUFC, and the bars have finally separated, by the way.
A little
Looks
bit.
like WTF. Yeah, WTF's actually barely above the Naga Siren, but that's not really where he wants to be.
Yeah.
So, Dignitas, they form back up. They're going to push into tier 2 here. Looks like this might be MUFC's last stand. If they get double raxed, I would imagine that they're just going to go to the second game.
Yeah, this isn't going to help. Lone Druid down again. It has been a absolute struggle for that Druid. And, I mean, it's been an absolute struggle everywhere on the map, really. And MUFC, again, I mean, I really like the tri-lane. I really like their... Yep, there it is. So they are just going to go ahead and call it, realizing that the straw that broke the camel's back finally being dropped on the table. Dignitas getting on the board, getting one in the win column, and doing it in our third consecutive sub-30-minute game here. So I feel bad for our viewers, man. It's a wonder we have any. They just, like, if you follow us around, you just get utter stomps one way or the other, and this time going the way of the North American squad in Dignitas. 24-8, the final kill score. And, I mean, what can you say, man? I mean, when you look at the sneaking finish 10-1 with a Shadow Blade and an SNY, and you look at the inventory of everyone else on MUFC, and I know I used this joke earlier, it just looks like a yard sale, man. Just a lot of junk.
Yeah, honestly, I think Sneaking probably could have just charity given away an item to MUFC, and it probably wouldn't have mattered. That's how much farm he had during that game. So, this game for Dignitas, it seems like today is pretty much the support day. If the supports do well, then you win really, really hard, especially when you have heroes that are so level reliant like Bane.
Right.
For instance, bottom lane, they got the double kill. That was so important because if that Bane didn't get level 6 from those 2 kills, when they went mid, that puck might have actually gotten away. The Fiend's Grip was pretty much the only reason they were able to secure that. That put TFG pretty much to a point where he was never going to get Blink. At that point, I think he had barely over 1,000 gold, ended up dying, and was back down to like 700-ish, and then he just never had a chance to recover.
Right.
So they did an excellent job of keeping the Initiator down to the point where they could just take fights on their terms, and they just never let go of the lead.
Again, a sub 25 minutes, actually, if you want to get technical about it. 24 minutes, 10 seconds. The final game time, 24-8. The final kill score. Dignitas gets their first win on the board. MUFC going to look to split the series. Dignitas, though, wants to make up for their losses earlier. They want to make it a sweep. We'll find out which team's up to the task. Coming up next, I may see that Straskel. Stick with us, guys. We'll be right back with Game 2 of this Best of 2.